All right. Talking puck again. Puck Wave Pod, episode 3. Jackson, the goalie, Jackson Bowline. All right, let's get right into it. This, I think, is the most important story in the NHL right now. Dick Raquel has 5 points in his last 2 games. I really wanted to say Dick Rackle, but I figured, if I'm going to call him that, then I might as well get his last name right. That's not actually the most important story, but anytime you can talk about, him. And I mean, the Pittsburgh Penguins in general, and yeah. But, 5 points in the last 2 games. It's off to a good start this month.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Definitely. I mean, not much else to say. Penguins are trying to make a push to get that second spot, catch up to the Rangers. I don't really know if it's going to change anything. The Rangers aren't catching Carolina, I don't think. Say that as a Rangers fan. So it's all about that home ice advantage.
Yeah, and what we said a couple weeks ago, it's like a weird time. We basically know who's going to be in, give or take, seeding and maybe a couple people in the West. But I don't know, Jackson. You're the only one that actually played the sport that we love. And I mean, I hate to break it to you. You didn't make it to the NHL. I think you could have. I mean, a few pucks bounced differently, who knows? But at this point in the season, what are you just waiting for the playoffs? Or, what's the team mindset right now?
Well, I mean, there's still a lot of teams that are, they go into every single game for positioning. For example, the Wild and the Blues are both at 96 points for that second place for home ice advantage. It looks like the Wild are going to play the Blues in the playoffs. So it's really just who gets the home ice. So, I mean, if you're one of those teams, it's just every game's the biggest game of the season. But I mean, if you're Colorado, it's just try not to get hurt. I mean, they still put 9 goals on the board, so they're not really taking their foot off the pedal by any means. But yeah, I mean, it's just try to stay healthy for the playoffs, build momentum. I don't really know what else. But I mean, it's more in the Western Conference and the Eastern where there's some teams that just, they know where they are. I mean, Florida, Carolina, Tampa Bay, New York, much better conference. But yeah, I mean, it's just, go into every single game, try not to overdo some things if you don't need to.
Yeah. There's been some talk about playoff teams. I'm curious your opinion of this. There's been some talk that it's basically Colorado and then every other Eastern Conference team and then Calgary. And then the rest of the West falls into place. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think people are overhyping some of the lower teams in the East?
I think we're sleeping on our brothers to the north, the Minnesota Wild. But I mean, I picked them after the trade deadline. Jackson, of course, he's going to be as unbiased as he can be. But this team, and just the fan base alone, if you can get a fan base to buy in and one that's as rabid as Minnesota's, to pay a guy's fine for him, I understand, it was kind of ridiculous. Evander Kane, he's going to warrant some reaction from players. So, whatever. But the fan base is bought in and the team, it seems believes even more than the fan base. And, I've been saying it the entire time we've been doing this podcast, something is going to happen with this team in the warm weather. I mean, Minnesota, it'll get up to 40, so it won't be that warm for them. But, something's cooking there.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing about the Wild that's a little concerning, well, first off, with that fine, I'd like to point out that the Twitter user who gave up Ryan Hartman's Venmo and started this whole thing is going to be going on ESPN for the broadcast tonight for an interview. And Michael Russo, our writer, the Wild's beat writer, did a story on them, including her. And, the person who tweeted and asked how we pay this was your own right here, but no mention was given for me. Just little point out. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool. And then Patrick Beverley for basketball is getting fined a lot more, $30,000 for. I didn't even see the press conference, but I know a lot of lot of fans are looking to find his Venmo as well. So yeah, it's just a very supportive fan base. But yeah, though playoff wise, the Wild, the concerning part for them is that the Blues and Nashville have given them a lot of trouble this year, a lot of trouble the last couple of years. And playoffs are a different monster, but if they get matched up with one of those, it's going to be a good series. I know the Wild have had very bad luck in first round playoffs. The last couple of years, they've been in the first round or been in the playoffs. But I mean, yeah, the momentum is their way. They just stomped the Oilers, stopping their hot streak, and they're good enough to win. It's just they can get over the Minnesota curse.
Also, before we leave this Edmonton, Minnesota game, shout out Evander Kane's ex-wife for contributing to the fund.
Yes.
Right? Hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, by any means necessary. And, like, for Edmonton, it's already bad enough. Like, you want to get McDavid and Draisaitl out of the playoffs. But now, if you have every team in the Western Conference who just hates you even more because of Evander Kane, like, they're going to be put in a legitimate dogfight, even worse than, it would have been without him there however many months ago.
Yeah.
All right. Florida, 9-1 their last 10. Toronto, 7-2-1. Rangers, 7-2-1. Top of the East is looking really good. And then we mentioned before, the Pittsburgh Penguins, 3-6-1. But I mean, if you want to get cold, it like right now seems like the optimal time to, kind of be downward, because then you hope, final 5 games, whatever, we'll get it back. And then come playoff time, we'll be ready. What one of those teams, I mean, only one of them has a losing record their last 10. But out of those 4 teams I mentioned, whose luck will be different come playoff time?
Can you rattle off the names again? I got most of them, but a couple of them slipped me.
So let's say, I mean, it wouldn't happen, but, maybe in the playoffs or final 10, including playoffs, Florida would go like 1-9. Toronto, Rangers, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's the only team that's negative their last 10 out of those 4.
Okay, so I did. Okay, I thought there was a 15 that I maybe missed. Apparently not. Anyway, I feel like it's probably this is going to be an interesting take. I feel like just because of how much of a tear Matthews is on, but I think Toronto will go cold. I mean, I know like the Rangers are starting to rest people and everything, but like looking at the schedule the Rangers have, I just don't see them going that cold. Pittsburgh, I don't think they're just going to continue to have another like 10 game slip like that with the remaining games left in the year. And I don't know. I feel like Toronto's going to start sitting people come playoffs. They're going to realize seeding won't change. And I don't know. I feel like they're the most realistic option, even though like none of the 4 options are a very good choice at all.
Yeah, I mean, the Hurricanes have an extremely easy schedule to end the year. They play Detroit, Colorado, other than that, but then Arizona, Winnipeg, New Jersey, Islanders, and then another tough game against the Rangers, and then finish with the Devils. So I don't see them. I mean, maybe a few blunders, but the Rangers could, or the Hurricanes could catch some confidence boost there. So I mean, if Matthews somehow goes on a goalless streak, the Maple Leafs are in trouble, and their goalies. I mean, I know the rookie's doing well, but I just don't trust Toronto's goaltending. I mean, looking in the East, if we're going to look at it like that, the Panthers have decent goaltending. Toronto, it's questionable. Tampa Bay, obviously, pretty secure. And then you got the Hurricanes. Frederik Andersen's good this year, really good. You just never know with him in the playoffs. And I mean, Rangers obviously got Igor, and goaltending all kind of makes a big difference in the playoffs, especially in the NHL. And if you're looking at the Maple Leafs, they're the only team that has a pretty questionable goaltending. So I agree with the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention their final 5 games are at Tampa, at Florida, at Washington, and then home against Detroit, and then home against Boston. I mean, they don't have 5 easy games. They have 4 tough games, 1 less tough game in Detroit, and they're away for 3 of those 4 tough games. I mean, it's not an easy schedule, and if you decide to bench Matthews because it doesn't look like your playoff standings are gonna change much, you might have a struggle in that final 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but it's like we know who's going to play in the playoffs, the West wild card, which Nashville almost being the odd team out instead of Vegas or Dallas is really surprising, but we'll get back to that. But it's just really weird. Like, I feel like, we've been posting goals since October, basically every night. And then the past few weeks, kind of haven't, because it's just we just see the same people score over and over and over again. And it's cool, the milestone goals we'll get to, Matthews 50 and all that. But it's at some point, we just want to see the games that mean a little bit more. And, every couple games a week matter standings wise, whatever, rivalries. But now we're just in that point of we know what's coming, but we can't wait anymore for it.
Yeah.
And then, for some teams, if you're a Maple Leafs fan, you desperately want this time to be over because you want it to be okay, we're going to make it out of the first round or not. And then, other teams like Tampa Bay fans are all right, we'll start tuning in again because it doesn't matter until May anyways.
Yeah, it's always hard to trust Tampa Bay. I really just don't, or not Tampa, sorry, not Toronto. It's always hard to trust them in the playoffs. And as much as I want the meme to continue, at this point, I feel so bad for them and their fans. Their fans stick with them through it all. Great regular season, playoff collapse. And, just once, their fans deserve to see them make it out of there.
Yeah. 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 I mean, really the big battle for playoff positioning. I mean, it looks like the Eastern is pretty set for teams wise. Positioning will still fluctuate in and out, but Islanders pretty much have to win out to even get a chance. And Capitals and Boston would have to have a complete drop off. So that the Eastern is pretty much set, but the Western, it's still pretty wide open. I mean, like I said, Minnesota, St. Louis, they're fighting for the 2nd seed, and they play the same nights every single week. But tonight, the Minnesota plays Dallas, who's a wild card team right now, fighting for that 2nd wild card spot. St. Louis, of course, plays a horrible team in the Sabres. No offense to any Sabres teams. Actually, they're playing pretty well. The Sabres have a chance tonight, which would be huge for Minnesota. But then Minnesota and St. Louis play on Saturday, which will hopefully be it'll be a bloodbath kind of game, playoff kind of game for that. But for positioning, yeah, that's the Western it's pretty up in the air. I mean, Vegas still has a chance, even though they're kind of falling off here and more injuries. But I mean, healthy team, and with Mark Stone back, the Western's a very interesting playoff battle here.
I don't see it happening, but the Oilers still could miss out.
Yeah.
The Pacific, they're only a point ahead of Nashville in terms of wild card rankings. And LA, they've played 76 games. They have 88 points. And then that's the only scenario where Vegas has games on hand of another team because they have played one more than Nashville and Dallas. So, I mean, one of those teams gets cold, couple off nights, and they could be out of the dance.
Yeah. I mean, you look down the teams that aren't in it for the Western, Vegas, Vancouver, Winnipeg, they all have a chance to sneak into the playoffs if some team goes cold and they hit fire.
Yeah, I mean, those final 2 spots, there's not much I can add other than it's going to be really entertaining to see how they play out.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I'm just going to keep repeating myself, but what else do we have to get into?
I mean, I think something worth noting, and yeah, it's the Rangers fan saying this, but the NHL Network sent out a tweet a couple days ago that I have to pull up. which is going to take a second, but it basically was showing some of the more advanced analytical stuff, like percentage in terms of like face-off, defensive control, shots on goal, all that kind of stuff. And the Rangers are just like top 5 in everything since the deadline. I mean, yeah, I'm the Rangers guy and everything, but I think that's pretty noteworthy for a team that notably struggled in 5-on-5 play to turn around and do a lot of this stuff. Yeah, so at even strength rankings, the Rangers went from 19th time defending in their zone to third. They went from like basically cycle chances against, they went from 26 to first pre and post deadline. I mean, like that is an incredible turnaround, being able to shut down like those many chances and everything. And their expected goals against went from 24th to 5th. Like, again, those are some incredible stats. And I feel like it's really worth noting. Like, yeah, struggled against Carolina. It's Carolina, though. I mean, but since the deadline, the Rangers have really clamped down on a lot of their issues. And I think we could be a really hot team come the playoffs. I think it's going to be a team that people have to watch out for. I think we're kind of counted out sometimes when people are like, oh, yeah, Shesterkin dependent. But the thing is, every team's goalie dependent. You take Vasilevsky out of Tampa and give him a mediocre goaltender. Tampa's struggling to make playoffs. Like, it happens for every team. You can't just, I don't know. It's like a weird double standard, but I think that analytics are worth at least mentioning on here, even if we don't have a full-blown discussion.
Yeah. I mean, analytics is a big part in the game now for all media and for players. I mean, teams, they have departments, or every team has a department, some bigger, some smaller, but it's definitely a big thing for the Wild too. I mean, Dean Evason will pull the goalie down 4 with 15 minutes left. So it all has something to do with it.
I don't know what made me think of this, Jackson, but is Flowers staying with Billy G?
So Jesper Wallstedt, probably our number one prospect at this point, probably overran Marco Rossi, but he's going to be signing in North America next year. So that could be the Iowa Wild. That could be, the Heartlanders. But so that to me means we get another year of Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm sure they bring him back, but next year's the start of the really frustrating and tough year for the Wild financially. So it's all going to be, can they make the money fit? But I don't know who our other goalie would be, other than Talbot, if they don't bring back Flower.
Okay, don't get me wrong. I really liked the answer and the insight into Wild prospects. I kind of meant like literally like at his house, because I saw this interview he did yesterday, and there was a picture of, the Dallas Stars, and I was like, okay, well, Mark didn't play on the Stars. Billy Guerin did. Flower doesn't know how long he's going to be there. And, like, players have, especially with those, like, Pittsburgh ties, players have ties of staying with management in these kind of situations. But, I mean.
Yeah, no, I get it. But, yeah, I have no idea. But they did play together, too, in the end of Guerin's career when Flower was just coming up. So, yeah, they know each other pretty well. I'm not sure if they're staying together or not, though.
I mean, that'd probably be like a just pretty one less thing for him to worry about, just keep all eyes on, the game and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, that it is an interesting situation there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's the other thing. We can talk a little bit about some awards. I feel like Matthews now, just, when you go like, what was it, like 79 goals in 79 games, I feel like you kind of got to win. Just blanking on MVP. Sorry. You just like, I just feel like he's just run away with it the second half and just been on a totally different level. And the way that this Toronto team, after a first half, just kind of, are they going to be good? Are they going to be decent? And now, that 2 seed in their division, I think he's got it wrapped up.
Yeah, I mean, up until about 3 weeks ago, I would have told you that Shesterkin has just as much chance as Matthews. Then he went a little cold. He's doing fine. I'm not worried about Shesterkin, but he had a couple games where it was a little below what he's typically doing. He led in a couple soft ones and everything. Just stats took a dip and everything. So I feel like, yeah, Matthews has run away with it now. But I don't know. Even with Shesterkin taking like a tiny bit of a dip, I don't see how you can go with anyone other than him for Vezina, because it's not about, oh, you had a 10 game chunk where you put up, a 0.91 save percentage. Like, it's about throughout the season, he has a 0.936, I think it is. Like, it's like, yeah, you had a couple bad games, but overall, like, I don't see a goalie that's really come close to him. I don't. And that could be a little Ranger bias factoring in, but I can't see anyone else winning Vezina. And I mean, same goes for, how am I blanking on it? Rookie of the Year, the name of the award. That's escaping me right now. Calder. Thank you. Oh my God. I mean, Detroit's got a couple guys. Like, don't get me wrong. Detroit's got two promising rookies and everything, but like Raymond's not going to take it. Zegras not going to take it. It's just not happening. It's really just not. It's gonna be Seider, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
How long is Detroit gonna be like bad for, you think?
I say give them like 4 years and they can battle. They could do it sooner, but I think that's like 4 years is like, I feel like, is average expectation.
Yeah, they need like a player like I'm trying to think. I mean, other than like the Wild, I'm trying to think like Kaprizov, how he changed the franchise. They need like a superstar on their team who can score 40 goals a year, who can get maybe 80, 90 points a year. I don't think Dylan Larkin is that. I mean, he has potential, but I just don't see him being like that superstar, taking that jump. And Moritz Seider is a great start because, I mean, he's a great place to build off of from that back end. But, I mean, Lucas Raymond as well is a good player. I just don't see him being like a superstar either. So I don't know. They need something to get them to win them games. They need somebody who can win them games other than contribute to win a couple, because they're competitive. I mean, now the last month they've dropped off a lot, but pretty much the whole year they were competitive. They were a 500 team most of the year until this last month, but they just obviously goaltending too. They have really, really poor goaltending. Nedeljkovic is a huge disappointment this year. After his really good year, Tomas Greiss, he's not the answer. Obviously, Calvin Pickard isn't the answer either, but they need a couple things, but they have a lot of pieces. I mean, you look at their top scorers, it's a lot of good names. The Pius Suter pickup as well this offseason was super sneaky good too, because he was pretty good this year too. But I think they're in the right direction. They just need to hit on some more draft picks than they have in the past.
All right.
Speaking of draft picks,
go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to speaking of draft picks, just want to throw in there Owen Power making his debut, number one. Yeah. We got to see a little bit of him.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Do you think he stays in the lineup for the rest of the season, or you think they send him back down after a couple games? How do you think that plays out?
I mean, why not?
Well, yeah, I don't see why not. They're not going to make the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. Yeah, there was a lot of debuts from college being over. A lot of those like Bobby Brink. Ben Myers just signed, which is super disappointing. He signed with the Avalanche. Was hoping he could sign with the Wild, but yeah, we got a lot of bias for me. A lot of Minnesota kids making their NHL debuts this past week. But Bobby Brink, national champion from where's he from? I know he was born in Bemidji, where I go to school, but it's not where he played high school. But anyways, yeah, it's fun to see that.
That either shows just like how dead the Sabres are, or just how busy I've been. I had no idea that Power even debuted. I know he signed, but I didn't even know he played.
Oh, he played. He made his debut 2-3 nights ago now. I can't remember the exact day, but not too long ago.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, and Lord knows Tage Thompson needs some help. I don't think that there's a bigger group of people that are Tage Thompson supporters than us. And guy just needs something. And it's like I have never seen a team fall off as bad. I understand it was like 3 weeks, but people are like the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, Buffalo Sabres. Too many sports. Buffalo's great though. Anyways, Buffalo Sabres, they were like, oh, they're gonna make the playoffs, and then now they're just dealing with this. But
yeah,
good for Tage. He needs.
I have
Owens.
one team that dropped off from playoff. The Anaheim Ducks. They dropped off the face of the earth, along with Zegras. But yeah, the Sabres too. I mean, I think I had them in top 5 in the power rankings in one of the first couple of weeks. But the Sabres are an interesting team too. They're going to get a top draft pick. They have a lot of pieces. They can maybe be good. I mean, it's been a rough couple of years for Sabres fans.
Definitely. I find it funny, they were like a bunch of Sabres fans for a long time were just waiting for Eichel to come back and everything. And now that he's gone, they seem so much happier, which is really funny considering how long they were clamoring for him to come back. And now it's just he's gone and they're like, oh, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which seems kind of weird because it's like I would rather be mediocre with Jack than like below mediocre without him. But like I understand that it's the same situation the Devils that were in with Taylor Hall. They made it to the playoffs one time. Yeah, he won an MVP, but then like that last year before he got traded to the Coyotes, it was like he does not want to be here. He doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. Then he signed with the same Sabres the next offseason. That's neither here nor there. And it was like, the guy's going to go and you don't want him around the younger guys bringing that negative attitude in. And, look at it now. We got Dawson Mercer out of it. Not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the Sabres, I mean, they got Alex Tuch, who former Minnesota Wild draft pick, let go for a couple guys that were traded a couple years later, but that's none here than there. But Alex Tuch, who's a good player. They got Peyton Krebs, who's had a good year too. It's not a horrible trade either way, though. Because you think about the Knights healthy with Jack Eichel, how dangerous they can be, because they just haven't been healthy since he got in there. But yeah.
Yeah, but if that whole team was healthy, they probably couldn't even put them all out, right? Because they're using that long-term IR manipulation.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do this offseason.
That's an interesting. LTIR itself is a whole discussion. I mean, what they're gonna be able to do in the off season is not looking like a great situation for them. Honestly, might have to really dump some heavy contracts of big name players.
Yeah, and I even hate putting this out there, but I think Max Pack they move on from, and I don't want to see that at all. I mean, like just something about Max Pacioretty at the T-Mobile Arena. I really like, and I have for a really long time. But I mean, he's just going to light it up next barn he goes to, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's some big names. I mean, like Riley Smith too. Gonna have to let him.
Oh, okay. So the Minnesota man froze.
He did. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? These things happen. All right, Jacob. I'm not sure if you heard what Ryan Whitney said about, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. It was after Zegras scored, like the 15th Michigan goal this season.
Yeah.
And I forget the players and who were they even playing? They were playing the Coyotes, right?
They might have been said 2 weweeks ago. Sounds like it could be right.
And
there's so much hockey going on, which I love, but also makes it so hard to track the games.
Yeah. But Whitney said essentially that you can't win in the NHL with just like skill and finesse guys. Is that a statement that you agree with?
I do. I really do. Because take the Rangers last year, and I'm not saying like the only reason we have success, new coach, new GM, great moves being made, but the Rangers last year were pretty soft and we had a mixed bag. We were pretty successful. We made it to the bubble and then, We got knocked out. We weren't even in the playoffs. We got knocked out in the playing series, So I think that you do need a level of grit, and you do need a level of just kind of being able to bulldoze through a guy instead of being able to just move the puck around all fancy. I do think you need an element of that. That being said, I think you can definitely have a heavier set of the talent and finesse players than the grit players, but you're definitely going to need like a tough fourth line. Like almost every team has a tough fourth line or a tough line. Just one of them's like the tough guys, so to speak. I think if you have 4 lines, it's just like all, finesse and skill, and you send out that tough line on them, they, one big check and it's going to be some real damage, so to speak. It's going to stop the momentum. So you need some grit players, but I mean, overall, like, I don't think it needs to be like a 50-50 balance. You can definitely lean much more heavy on the finesse.
JV, I'd love your input. I was just saying how after Zegras got rocked in Arizona a few weeks ago, when Ryan Whitney said you can't win with just skill and finesse guys, and Jakob agreed with them. So I'm interested in your take on it.
I mean, yeah. The only thing I took out of that was they traded Nick Delorier, their tough guy, and then a couple weeks later that happens. So that's why you need those tough guys to protect, because no matter what you think about it, there's going to be players on both teams that are going to go after your star player, especially if they're doing all those the fancy moves that some older players that they can't do it. They get frustrated that they're doing it against them. They're going to go after them like they did. So yeah, you just need those. That's when the tough guys come in, like the Ryan Reeves or blanking right now, but just like those players that will go after somebody for taking it. It intimidates them. So yeah, I don't know what my thoughts really either way. I don't want anybody's face knocked in like that, but at the same time, that's the way hockey's been for so long, that these players who have played for so long, I mean, they don't really know any other way. They've been trained to do that the one way.
Yeah, and that's just
I think that's fair.
That's not as bad, but friend of Trevor Zegras, Jack Hughes, he was doing some stuff, and then some people say it was a dirty hit. It really wasn't, but he gets taken out. PK Subban, before Jack can even skate off the ice, is taking out whoever did it to him. And like you said, you just need those kind of bodies around. PK Subban, obviously, you're paying $9 million. You don't really want to have him be your team enforcer. But, you just need older guys that'll stick up for the younger skill guys. And that's how you build a team in a winning culture.
Yeah.
Something I want to just make a quick note of that came up in discussion with like some Ranger fans that I know and talk to, which I think just bodes even better for us going to the playoffs. Alexander Georgiev, like it's all those times I mentioned like earlier, people say like take away Shesterkin, the Rangers are like mediocre at best because they have Georgiev in net. Meanwhile, in his last 3 starts against division opponents, Alexander Georgiev has like about a .33 goals allowed against, a .989 save percentage, and is 3-0. Like what? Like for a guy who's had his struggles after only playing every few games, for a guy who's had his struggles and inconsistencies, what a way to pick up some momentum going into the playoffs. And that could be huge if we need to rest Shesterkin for a night.
Yeah, for sure. Or if Shesterkin even has an off game, say game 3, the Rangers in the playoffs, he has an off game. They go into game 4. Georgiev steps in and plays good and win that game. Then you have 2 goalies, 2 strong goalies with a lot of confidence playing in that playoff series. So yeah, having 2 goalies it's the way to go right now in the NHL, and that would be huge for the Rangers for sure.
Yeah.
Matthew
I don't know.
Stafford.
Anyone else? Oh,
You're going to say something that's actually related to what we're talking about, so I will definitely let you go first.
No, I was going to say anyone else got anything they want to say. I mean, to be honest, I don't really have too many talking points. It feels like we're just kind of watching inconsequential games for the most part, with like every 4 having a significant impact on something.
Yeah, this is just, warm-ups for the playoffs. kind of like, how we have warm-ups for regular season.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
For me, it's
some fourth line guy is going to score 5 goals in 3 games, and we'll be like, "Whoa, we got a guy!" And then he won't play, and then he'll sign like a $1 million deal for the rest of his career.
yeah. The last couple of weeks have been a little less hockey. Actually, just it's weird to say, but a little less hockey and a lot more, baseball. And the Timberwolves. I'm not a huge Timberwolves fan, but Minnesota never gets to see playoff basketball, so there's been a lot of watching other sports, which is a lot different for me. But it's been fun. It's a fun time in Minnesota, even though a lot of people gave Minnesota a hard time for celebrating so hard. But
Title Town.
yeah, title town with 1 title.
Hey, I mean, shout out to Minnesota Lynx.
Oh, true. They got 3.
Yeah, they've won a lot, but what I was gonna say was Matthew Stafford bought 2 properties off of Drake for $22.5 million in Los Angeles.
Oh, jeez. Must be nice.
And he was selling it as like a 3-part compound, and people got mad at him because he didn't buy the part with like the tennis court and the basketball court. But maybe he doesn't need that.
Sorry, the Super Bowl winning quarterback isn't looking for those.
Yeah. I apologies in advance. I should have said it from the beginning, but this is just what it's going to be for basically, I don't know, another week or 2 until we can talk about like actual playoffs and break all that down and whatnot. But yeah, you're just going to get like some really random conversations and some back and forths and going over things that we already talked about. But I mean, hey, you just got to stick with us and we'll all make it out on the other end.
Yeah. I feel like we only got 1 week left because 2 weeks from now, you're getting the final games. Like, I think Thursday or Friday, like the 28th, 29th are the last games of the season. So then we'll finally be able to like, here's our lock-in for like the final predictions for awards, at least it's like the competitive ones. I mean, I'm sure we can just say, oh, it's going to be this guy and this guy and this guy for, Hart, Calder, and Vezina. But I mean, and then we can start breaking that down some playoff series. So I feel like we kind of just hope some big hockey news happens that we can break down and talk about for that last random episode before playoff stuff kicks into high gear.
Yeah.
Or
I'm just excited to see the Rangers in the playoffs. First time since 2017.
Stop. You talked about it before when Jake or Jackson wasn't here. You made that ridiculous bubble run and then you still got the first overall pick.
It happened.
The stupidest thing. I mean, it doesn't even matter.
Hey, the NHL made the odds. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even matter anyways. Like, Lafreniere's a bust. But that's all the time we got for this week.
Okay. Hold on. We are not doing that.
I mean, him and Kako just like back to back, just awful picks.
On the first line, he was doing great. He got taken off the first line, now has shuffling teammates on the third line. Hard to gain momentum like that.
It's sad when your number 1 overall guy gets replaced by Frankie V.
You know what? He would have replaced half the league.
I don't know, but that's all the time we got. You'll hear from us sometime next week. We're out.
I'm going to go and enjoy this snowstorm